The last time our nation's economy nearly ground to a halt, a newly elected president with the initials FDR tried just about everything to get it moving again. He led with bold actions and inspiring words. This morning, we look back to those times with two reports. We begin with John Dickerson.
Long lines for food, for relief, fear and despair. Though black and white, the pictures from the Great Depression echo America in the COVID era. National suffering and frustration. The virus is new, the struggle is not.
Our greatest primary task is to put people to work.
In 1933, newly elected Franklin Delano Roosevelt confronted 25% unemployment, the collapse of banking, and sweeping poverty. His response would reshape the way the country thought about itself, its president, and democracy.
The United States was in the fetal position, and people really wondered whether we would ever get out of this.
Jonathan Alter is author of The Defining Moment, FDR's 100 Days and the Triumph of Hope. We spoke inside the Manhattan home where Roosevelt slept the night he learned that he had won the presidency.
Roosevelt believed in what he called action and action now.
This nation is asking for action and action now.
And he used that word in his inaugural address 6 times. It actually got more applause than the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
While Roosevelt was ready for action, he had to make sure the country was too. At a time when the tenets of democracy itself were being questioned, he recast the social contract, convincing the American public they were all in it together.
What is the New Deal? It's a deal between the government and the people on what they expect of one another. And before Roosevelt was president, it was basically every man for himself. Rugged individualism, you know.
The only real contact the American people had with the federal government was when they went to the post office to buy a stamp. Roosevelt changed all of that.
He changed it by offering information and hope, says professor and historian David Woolner at the Roosevelt family estate in Hyde Park, New York.
People would gather around their radios and they would listen to their president explain what the government was trying to do. And this was very, very reassuring.
The famous fireside chats were few in number, but were symbolic of a connection between the patrician Roosevelt and those suffering with poverty. Something the president understood because he had suffered, says Susan Dunn, a Roosevelt scholar at Williams College.
I would say that the symbol of his presidency, of his life, is Warm Springs, Georgia.
Roosevelt was stricken with polio in 1921. He never walked again. During his recovery, he built a facility in Warm Springs, Georgia for other polio sufferers and took charge of its operation.
And it helped him to relate to all kinds of people. It's leading a life of kindness, of respect, of responsibility for the people we know, as well as for the people we don't know. That's what a real democracy requires. That's the moral basis of democracy.
With the country's support for his spirit of experimentation, Roosevelt unleashed a flock of programs.
They went to work building the infrastructure of this country in ways that are almost unimaginable now. They built 39,000 schools, 2,500 hospitals, more than 300 airports, 800 state parks.
The Hoover Dam, the Lincoln Tunnel, the Tennessee Valley Authority, among the many major projects created with a Congress willing to work with the president. That didn't mean Roosevelt was without enemies.
I think there's a kind of an assumption that everything for him worked, but he had very, very strong opposition. There was plenty of partisanship, and there were plenty of Republicans and some Democrats who thought that he was becoming a dictator.
Soon enough, Roosevelt would be fighting real dictators in the Second World War, which ultimately lifted the country out of the Depression. America became a beacon for the world, and its leader, Roosevelt, offered a new way to measure the worth of a nation.
And he said, you know, the test of our progress is not whether we provide much to those who have much, but whether we provide enough to those who have too little.
That is the test posed by FDR for America's leaders today. Not just to survive, but to plot a course for a way to emerge from this crisis stronger.